So it's Monday, 2 days now removed from age group nationals in Cleveland. I flew in yesterday. It was good to get back and kind of hang out with the family. It was a successful race. I finished 6th overall in the age group. My goal going in was top 5. That would have been a great day for me, and then top 10 would have, was what I really, would have been a good day. Looking back at the results, I was only just about a minute off of 3rd. So, and I had such a bad swim that I realized that 3rd was in reach, at least yesterday. Or on Saturday. There were a couple guys that were strong guys in the age group that didn't finish. I'm not sure what happened to them, but they did not finish the race. So, but that's what happens. Some people finish, some people don't. So you gotta go and play the hand that's dealt, and you don't know who's gonna drop. So Nationals is a great race. They do a really good job of with logistics and everything. Given that my race wasn't going off until like 9:30 and transition closed at just before 7 o'clock in the morning, I had to eat, but I wanted to get some real food in me before I headed down to the race site. So when I was about 2.5 to 3 hours out, I would eat like I normally would before a normal race that goes off at 7. Down there, got set up with the bike, and then after that, I met up with some teammates, and we basically just hung out. It was definitely a long swim. The top guys in the first wave were coming out, between, I don't know, there might have been a couple outliers at 22, 23, but most of the people were coming in at 25, 26 minutes, which is slow for an Olympic distance. So I knew going in that the swim was going to be slow. It was probably more like a 70.3 swim. But it's nice to know going in that it's a long swim, so you don't get too flustered with the times when you get out. That was the last wave, so that was the last one to go off. About midway through the wave starts, the wind picked up. And by the time the last, 5 waves, 6 waves went off, there were 19 waves. By the time the last number of waves went off, it was not smooth anymore. The water was choppy. I wasn't concerned. I was actually looking forward to it. I thought it might be to my advantage, and little did I know it wasn't. Like maybe 20 minutes to warm up before the race, and it turned out to be less than 10. And that just is not sufficient, and they need to change that. I got in the water. The 50 to 55-year-old or 50 to 54-year-old age group was going off, and I got in, got some strokes in, and I was trying to get out of the water, and they gave a 3-minute call that they were, we were going to go off, and I started to get frazzled. I was like, oh my gosh, and I'm trying to get out of the water because I had to go down the beach and then back in. By the time I got down there was like a minute and a half to go, and where I would have liked to have lined up was already 3 deep with people. It didn't line up where I would have liked, and then the gun goes off, and it was honestly what I thought was going to be a strength. I got frazzled immediately on the swim. I could not get into a rhythm on the swim. I normally, when you have waves in the ocean, I'm not saying all the time, but a lot of times it's more of a, the swells come in, it's rhythmic, you can get into a rhythm on the swim, you can kind of time it a little bit. It was not that case here. It was, you were just getting washed around and smacked around, and it was rough. I did not have a good swim, and honestly, that was disappointing. I went in thinking I could go hard on this swim and really wanted to redeem myself, considering I've been swimming very well in the pool, but haven't translated into the open water. So anyway, done with the swim. Got out of the water. It's about a 300-yard run to transition through soft sand. My goal was to be like 5 minutes work into the bike and then start to pick it up. I'd say before halfway, I started to feel good, and I started to push a little harder. About halfway through, and all the guys I was yo-yoing with, before we got to the halfway point, I passed, and then I didn't see him again. So I started to pick it up. And I think only one guy passed me on the bike, and he happened to be on my team. My teammate Tom Scanlon, who was in the wave before me, didn't have a good swim. He's a strong biker, and got out and hammered the bike, and he caught me right before halfway point. But that's right when I was starting to feel good. So as much as he did put a little time on me after he caught me, I had him in sight the rest of the way for the most part. And so we actually almost crashed at the turnaround point because there was no one there yelling that it was a turnaround, and it was a complete like go around a cone turn. So you had to almost like stop to turn around. And I saw Tom sit up on his bike. I didn't know what he was doing. I thought we had further to go, and there was a sign. Apparently I missed it, and there was no volunteers telling you to slow down, which they should have had. So there was one guy just sitting there at the turn, but not saying anything and just kind of sitting there. So as much as I slammed my brakes on, there was a guy behind us that almost crashed into the back of both of us. I literally had to unclip, and basically because I almost hit the cones, and I turned around and got back on the bike. So anyway, that was a little scary because that could have ruined my day. But back on the bike, hammered the second half, and felt pretty good, and reeled in some people. Like I said, other than Tom, I don't think I was passed on that bike. I knew the run, once you got out of transition, was going to go straight uphill. And so I was kind of prepared for that. I kind of dialed it back, shortened the stride, up the hill. Heart rate was starting to shoot up already. And, I got into a pretty good rhythm. Still not running as fast as I would have liked, but I felt pretty solid on the run. And I was running probably about 170 heart rate, 171 heart rate, but I felt comfortable. It didn't feel like I was overdoing it. So it's a very technical run. There's a lot of turns, a lot of zigzag, and they try to keep the run into it was a very condensed area, and there was 2 loops of it. So, so there's and it got congested. The run got very congested. There's a lot of people out there. So there's a lot of passing. I had to run on the grass to pass people because people were just it was a bike path, and they were just kind of filling it up. But anyway, got through the first loop, and then I started, obviously you can taste the finish at that point. So I really focused on that second loop, and, with about a mile to go, I just tried to empty the tank and whatever I had left. Finished pretty strong. Overall, though, Cleveland was great. It was a great venue. They did a nice job. I mean, there's obviously some little things that they could fix, but they did a great job. It's a neat town. I would love to do it again there, but unfortunately with Lake Placid next year, I'm not going to be doing that. I did turn down my spot to Worlds just because of Lake Placid next year. There's no way you can get ready for an Olympic distance that quickly after an Ironman. I will say it's relieving to go into a race like Nationals. It's an A race, and come out with a solid effort and a solid result.